Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual tour for Paulus Dairy. My name is Jerome Meyer from Select Sires, and I have the opportunity to introduce you to the Paulus Dairy. So on behalf of Select Sires and CowManager, I'd like to thank everyone for attending here this afternoon. So we'd like to introduce the Paulus family. If we could have Tiffany and Kurt, if you could please stand up. And then we also have Mike and Lori. And then Andy and his kids that are playing hooky today, Sully and Josie. And Sully and Josie will be the 7th generation of the Paulus family to farm in Fredonia, Wisconsin. So thank you to the Paulus family. Let's give them a nice round of applause for being here today. So the Paulus story starts much like many of yours here in this room. They've been a family farm for over 100 years, and it has evolved throughout the course of the years from a 35-cow tie stall dairy to a 1,500 cow, extremely modern dairy that it is today. One of the main focuses of Paulus Dairies is on sustainability and creating the next generation for the future. So with that, we'd like to introduce Dr. Schneider, Tiffany Schneider, and give you a little bit of background about Paulus Dairy.
Hi, welcome to Paulus Dairy here. My name is Andy Paulus. We are located here in Fredonia, Wisconsin, Ozaukee County.
My name is Tiffany Schneider. I am a large animal vet and the herdsperson here. Paulus Dairy is owned by my parents, Mike and Lori Paulus, and my brother Andy. We have about 1,500 cows, with all the young stock about 3,000 in total. We run about 2,000 acres, mostly hay and corn for silage for the cows.
We farmed here ever since I was in high school. Started this back in 1975. We were milking in a stanchion barn on my homestead. At that time, we started with 33 cows, and from there we moved on.
When I was in high school, we kind of started to expand a little bit more. And 2011 was kind of the biggest expansion. We had kind of grown and grown a little bit here and there, but 2011 was the first big expansion. We put up our first 600 cow barn. With that came the parlor. At the time, it was a double 13. And then in 2015, then we built on the other barn. So the two barns are identical, and then we expanded the parlor to a double 20. So that's kind of where we are right now.
We are milking in a double 20 rapid exit parlor. We basically have makeup of alfalfa and corn for corn silage. We buy most of our dry corn in there and our commodities, cottonseed, and a wet distillers. It comes back to saying you are what you eat, and if we can't get good quality crops into the cows, they're not going to perform at their highest. So if we can put high quality feed in front of the cattle, that's just going to make everyone's life a lot better.
We are currently in the barn that is at my aunt and uncle's house. This barn is actually at the homestead where my dad grew up. This used to be a stanchion barn in here. We remodeled it, we put the calf pens in here. The calves, after they're born at our home farm, come here. They stay here until they're around 4 months of age. Then they go to 2 other facilities, one of them being my grandpa's farm where my mom grew up. They come back here and they are bred here, and then they go to another facility as pregnant heifers, and then they come back to freshen at the home farm. Overall, cow comfort, animal husbandry is extremely important to us. Whether it's at the calf level, heifer level, cow level, they give to us what we give to them.
In our main milking facility, freestall barns, is all sand bedding. That is the king of bedding, we feel. The sand really provides us with optimal cow health, udder health, and keeping the animal clean. The calves are all straw. That is 3 times a week. I keep that calf nice and healthy, clean, because basically when that calf is here, that is the future of our herd. Anything that we can change on our end to make better environment for the calf, heifer, and cow, that just helps us and the cow in the future.
We use the SRS program with Central Star. That allows us to kind of manage where we are now, see where our genetics are, where we're heading.
About 4 years ago, we narrowed down our selection a little bit. We started using more genomic bulls with the proven and the genomics in that, and I think that's going to be here to stay. Currently, we are using 2 genomic bulls and 2 proven bulls in our lineup right now. Basically, we are breeding a moderate-sized cow, but also a very efficient cow.
We also do use a little beef. We breed lower producing cows, cows who've maybe been bred 3 or more times, breeding them to Angus, and just continually increasing the genetic profile of our herd.
Right now, had a lot of luck with sex semen, smaller heifer calves at birth, heifers getting through that calving with no problems. You know, there's nothing better than getting up in the morning and seeing a nice heifer freshened, calf is laying there, cow's good, you know, because it's just easier on the cows.
May of 2018, we finally decided to go to the CowManager. We did a lot of research on it. I think CowManager really is giving us a good snapshot of what that cow is doing.
I would like to think that we are good herdsmen and we do know our cows, but it still does beat us to the punch with cows. Dennis and I'll lock up a cow who came up on CowManager, and we'll kind of look at each other like, be honest, would you have grabbed her? And we're like, no, we went dove.
The other day, they came with a cow that her rumination had fallen off. There is no way even the best herdsmen would have picked that cow out as having a DA this morning. But she was in the early stages, got her fixed up, and away she goes. She doesn't have that 2 or 3 day slide. She's up and running right away.
With the dairy industry changing so rapidly, the farming community has to adapt. Everything we do today will affect tomorrow. I think that's where part of the family comes into our family farm, is that we want to be here, we want to pass it on. We want to give it to our kids. We want to make sure that we are here in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and plus.
We make daily decisions on sustainability. The decisions that we make are for our future. I have 3 little kids. I would love them to have a farm to transition into. I hope they enjoy agriculture as much as I do.
When we expanded in 2011, that was a major, major step. That set the future for our kids and their kids. You've got to constantly be looking at what's best for your farm. Maybe it's not the thing that neighbor's going to do, but for your farm, that's what you got to look out for.
Right now, our particular dairy, we're in a kind of a lull. It seems like we've been expanding every year. We're not so focused on expanding right now as we are fine-tuning and making sure that everything we're doing is for the benefit of the cow and where we can watch our bottom dollar.
How are we going to sustain that we're here in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? I think that comes teaching what we've learned over the past years onto our kids and our top employees. Because if we want this thing to succeed, we've got to be teachers.
I guess I'm the most proud that we are still a family farm, committed to ourselves to help out in the community. We have 4 great kids and in-laws, grandkids, and we try to raise them right.
So good afternoon and welcome to our virtual tour. My name is Tiffany Schneider. So Paulus Dairy is owned by Mike and Lori Paulus and their son Andy Paulus. This picture was taken last year at my parents' 40th anniversary. The oldest in our family is Andy. He has his 2 kids, Sully and Josie, who are here with us today. Next is my sister Becky. She is a nurse. She's married to Dave Siskevich, who works for a heating company. They have 2 children, Olivia and Wyatt. Next is myself. I'm a veterinarian and I serve as the herdsperson at the farm. My husband Kurt, who is also a dairy farmer, and him and his brother own a custom manure hauling business. We have 3 little kids and 1 on the way, Kendall, Calvin, and Harlan. And then my sister Carla is a 2nd grade school teacher. She's married to John Schomer, who is a manager at a landscaping company, and they have 1 little boy, Abe. So growing up, we were all very active on the farm. We all showed cattle in 4-H, and we were also very active in our community. So, and we still are very active in our community. Andy is on the fire department. Both my parents are on numerous boards, Country Visions. My mom's very active in our church. So our farm began in 1975. It began when my parents bought the farm when my grandma, my dad's mom, bought it from her Uncle Jack. They started with 33 cows and it had 160 acres. So then in 1977, they built a 180 by 140 freestyle barn. So that is right here behind, this is where the parlor is, and then right here, extending north, is the freestyle barn. With that, they also put in a double 6 herringbone parlor. In 1978, Mike and Lori got married, they began their family, and they also purchased 45 cows. The picture on the left here is from August 28th of 1980. So this is my brother Andy on my mom's back as she's raking hay. He was about 10 months old in this picture. On the right is from May 6th of 1982. So here, my sister Becky is in the front in the crib. She's about 8 months old in this picture. And then my parents are milking in our old parlor. So like a lot of farm kids growing up, we slept out in the barn a lot when my parents were milking. This parlor, we currently use this parlor to this day. So this parlor is where we milk all of our treated cows, all of our fresh cows. This is where all of our colostrum gets collected. All the milk from this parlor is non-saleable milk. So all of this milk gets used to feed our calves. In this picture, we were milking 85 cows, and they were given 45 pounds. Then this is a current picture of our farm. We're at 1,500 cows and farming roughly 2,000 acres. So over here on the left this is still the old setup. In this barn we have pregnant heifers, and then all of our transition cows, any treated cows, and then up here on the right is where our new facility is. So we are constantly looking for ways to improve our farm, make it more sustainable for generations to come. So as you saw in the video, we have little kids that we would love to pass a farm down to. So Mike is one of the founding members of the Milwaukee River Watershed Clean Farm Families Group. We work with Central Star Slick Sires. We use their SMS and their SRS programs. And we also implement a lot of new technologies on our farm. And within the last couple years, we've really worked on revamping our calf program. So we believe that one of the ways to grow is to become competitive with ourselves. So we've been farming for a long time. As you heard, Josie and Sully would be the 7th generation on the farm. So we know that we just have to grow. We have to look at ourselves and be better herdsmen, better stewards of the land with every day. So these are Andy's kids 2 years ago, and as you see, competitiveness runs in the family. Paulus Dairy is located within the Milwaukee River Watershed Group. We are about 15 minutes away from Lake Michigan, and we farm land that's close to the Milwaukee River. So land management is very high on our priority list. We've always tried to be the best stewards of the land, but as you know, there's always new information coming out on how to be better. So a couple years ago, a group of farmers got together and they formed the Milwaukee River Watershed Clean Farm Families Group. One of the goals is to provide a platform for producers and landowners to share ideas, concerns, priorities, and lessons learned about agricultural conservation efforts. So they work with area producers, the Natural Resources Conservation Services Environmental Quality Incentive Program, and the Ozaki County Land and Water Management Department. So they work to educate landowners and producers about cover crops, conservation tillage, low maintenance manure injection, and other conservation practices. This allows them to better understand the soil and water quality benefits and how these practices improve a producer's bottom line. So not only did these farmers want to improve what they do as a whole, they also saw that there was more of a growing concern from the public on what we're doing. So it just takes a quick Google search to hear all of the horrible things that people think farmers are doing and eggs doing. So they wanted to really not only improve themselves as better stewards of the land, but really show the public what they were doing and be transparent to the public. So what they do is they put on some public field days on cover crops especially. And they use this to, they have those and tours to educate the public about the efforts they are taking to protect the soil and the water. They're then able to build that relationship with the public and promote agriculture. So we've had a couple of these tours out at the farm, and it's always interesting what people ask and what they want to learn more about what we're doing. We are a CAFO, so people want to know, how we are different than a smaller farm and what we are doing and the regulations that we do have to follow. So this is at one of the public field days. You see they're talking about some of the cover crops in the field and going over what planting these cover crops like rye does in a field. This is my dad on one of the planters with Jim Melikar and some of the other members of the watershed group. One of the programs that we use through Central Star is the SMS program, or the Select Mating Services program. So we've been using the SMS program for a while. During the transition in 2015 and then 2011, we were with Brian Coyne, and now we currently work with Susie Martin. When we expanded in 2005 and into 2015 and 2016, we brought in 5 different herds, and they were very different herds. 2 of them were freestall barns that were AI bred, and 3 of them were stanchion barns that were bull bred. So we just had a lot of different genetics coming into our herd. So what Andy did with Brian Coyne at the time is they really worked on a program to make a more uniform, medium-framed, and efficient cow. So we look at feet and legs, we look at net merit, production, and we just kind of try to create more of a uniform herd. Currently, we have 4 bulls in circulation. We use genomic bulls and young sires. For our heifer breeding program, we use sex semen on the first 2 services. Then we'll go to conventional semen, and then we'll do Angus. On the cows, we don't use any sex semen at the time, but we do use some Angus on low-performing cows or hard breeders. One of the issues with bringing in all these different herds is a lot of them were, or 3 of them were AI bred, so we didn't have a lot of information on them. So it was kind of hard to get a good program going. So one of the things that we've done recently with Susie, now that we're a couple years out from the expansion, what we did recently with Susie is we did a genetic audit. So what Susie was able to do is kind of rank our cows and look at our herd's overall genetic profile and see where, how we could be breeding cows differently. One of the things she was able to do was she was able to separate our cows out into 4 quartiles based on their PTAM production. So you see the first quartile is our highest producing cows here, and then down to the 4th quartile. So she found that between our top quartile and our bottom quartile, there's a difference of 2,196 pounds of milk. So this just comes from like Andy working with them with our SMS program and just trying to create a better herd. So now what we can do is we can separate out this bottom quartile and maybe breed them Angus or do something different with them. We have also talked about even using sex semen in the top quartile. One other thing that we looked at was our net merit. And as you can see in 2015 here is when we really started putting an emphasis on our breeding program. And you can see how it is, it just continues to grow. So when we first looked at these numbers, probably in 2016, all these calves, all these ones from 2015 were calves. So it's been interesting over the years to now see these cows are now in our milking herd. And so we can make better breeding decisions on them as our milking cows. The other program that we work with Central Star is their SRS program, or their Select Reproductive Solutions. So we work with Scott Hecker with this. Scott gives us monthly reports. The monthly reports are more of just a basic overview. We look at cows versus heifers. Cows are broken up then into lactation. We look at conception rates, preg rates, submission rates. We can then also look at cows by breeding code. And then about twice a year, we do more of an in-depth report. So we sit down, we have a meeting. We call in our herd veterinarians, Dr. Ron Heinz and Dr. Lindley O'Reilly from Cedar Grove Vet Clinic come in, and we really start to tease apart the numbers. So this allows us to target different areas of our reproductive program, watch trends. One of the things with the monthly reports is we do get a 4-month average and a 12-month average. So if we can pick up something kind of quicker on the 4-month average and kind of watch it out that way. This is also how we targeted our heifers. So we started with the CowManager with our heifers because we are finding that our detection was not there. So most of our heifer breeding is done in-house. So we are finding that the heifers that we are breeding were settling, but we were just having a hard time catching the heifers. As you saw in the video, the heifers are on a different site, and we just weren't catching them like we should have. So these are 2 examples of the SRS program that Scott gives to us monthly. So here over on, this is the 4-month average, and 4-month versus 4-month, and then 12-month versus 12-month. So here on March 1st of 18, this is before CowManager came in, and then you compare it to September 1st of 18. So the CowManager came March of 18. So even though our preg rate didn't go up, we did increase our submission rate, and that was one of our big things, that we just felt like we weren't catching these cows. And then in October of 18, we also had Carlos Castillo come in from Central Star, and he worked with Dennis, our main breeder, because there was a little bit of a learning curve with the CowManager. So just being able to look at the graph and see, okay, is this a heifer who maybe something changed and she has a little bit more increased activity? You know, is she actually in heat? Is this a heifer we should be breeding? So there's just a little bit of a learning curve. So Carlos came in and worked with Dennis, and then we saw an increase with the CowManager, and then we even seen an increase in our preg rate after that, after we were understanding the graphs a little better. And then we have just September 1st to September 1st of this year. So this is our most recent numbers. And as you can see, our conception rate in our heifers on the 4-month average is now up to 60. So we've seen the biggest improvements as of recently with the CowManager. One of the other things that we do on our dairies, we've implemented a lot of new technologies, and we have to then manage that data. That's kind of where I come in a little bit more, is with the data management. So this picture on the left, this is how our calf records used to be. This calf was born on February 10th of '84. She's only about 2 months older than I am. Her dam that we know from this is number 4, and her sire is Giver. And then we used to take pictures with them, so we'd have them in their record. So just a little comparison from them until now. So this is a screenshot from my phone. A lot of the CowManager I look up on the computer in the morning, but then we all have it on our phone so that we can look up stuff during the day. So Newer technology than this, so we have cow number 5568. Just from this screenshot, I know that she's in pen 17. She's 97 days of milk. She was born on July 1st of 16. She's 3 years, 2 months, second lactation. She was bred 17 days ago on September 7th. She's been bred once. She calved in on June 19th. And she synced 12 minutes ago in barn 2. And she was at a 6.4 for 5 hours. So just some of the different technologies and different information that we have right at our fingertips. So we use Dairy Comp for all of our records, all of our cow records, calf records. And about 4 years ago, we started using the Pocket Cow Card. We have 2 tablets that we have out on the farm. We just always have them out in the barns. The Pocket Cow Card allows us to manage our cows better out in the barn. So we're not having to run up in the office and see, if there's a cow in heat, is she a good cow? Should she be bred again? I'm able to look up almost everything that I can get on CowManager or on Dairy Comp, I can get on my Pocket Cow Card. So I can look up her somatic cell, production records, things like that. We also started to weigh calves and take total proteins on our calves. So that's part of our calf care program. So what we do with those is we use them when we have our calf meetings, just kind of watch trends, see where we're sitting as far as that. We began using CowManager in May of 2018. We started with our heifers. So through our reports and through our meetings, we had found that our heifers were really the area that we needed to focus in on. So we usually get the monitors on around 13 months. The monitors stay on the heifers for good. We don't switch them out or anything like that. And then we do put some extras on our cows. So we get 70 sensors a month. So depending on how many extras we have, we put some on our cows, on our fresh cows. And then at 14 months, we check them, see if anatomically the heifers are good, if we haven't seen any heat on them, and then only then we'll use some Lutalice on them. We have 2 different modules. We have the reproductive module and the health module. There's been a lot of benefits through using this CowManager program. The first of all is time management. So what we used to do is we used to tail chalk everybody. We used to lock the cows in the morning, go through tail chalk, and we just felt like our cows were spending too much time in the headlocks. This allows us to go through, we're looking for specific cows, especially in the breeding groups, get them caught up, get them bred, and let the cows out. We usually then only lock 1 set of headlocks instead of locking all the cows and going through and tail chalking. It's especially important in our post-fresh pen because we have enough confidence, I guess, in the CowManager that when we start working our post-fresh group, what we'll do is we'll throw some hay down, flip the headlocks, and then we'll walk through. And if cows are laying down and she's chewing, she looks okay, I have the confidence that even if there's something subclinical going on with her, that the monitor would tell me so. So we're able to let them lay, let them be, lock only the cows that we need, and let everybody else out, so we don't have everybody locked up. Also, it's less time breeding in the morning, so we know exactly who we need, get them locked up, get them bred, and get them let out. Also, we are able to intervene a lot sooner with cows. So there are cows that pop up that, you go out there and you check them and, okay, yeah, her eyes are a little sunken in. But we have had cows that I know that we would have walked past, that we catch and we lock them up, and sure enough, they're a little off. Some of these cows, they have something a little bigger going on, but we've had it where a cow is just a little bit off. So we'll maybe give them an IV or pump them or something, intervene a little earlier, and then they take off. So we don't let them get to a DA. We don't let them go any further. Also, with the better detection rate, with the heat detection, we have a higher conception rate. So the next video I'm going to show is a heifer that came up one morning. We started working the fresh cow pen, and she had flagged as being very sick. She flagged for 1 hour. So we locked her up, and she had a DA. We were kind of all surprised that she actually had a DA. And then we were able to correct the DA, and we had everything done within 3 hours. So she got detected with the system, we caught her, we corrected the DA, and she was on her way within 3 hours. So the video is just her locked up with some hay. So this is a heifer that we would have probably just caught the next day. So we were able to intervene really quickly. One of the last areas that we have is our calf health and management program. So the picture on the left is Andy feeding a calf on May 6th of '82. He's about 2.5 years old here. And then on the right is my daughter Kendall at the Coney Fair this last year with her spring calf butterfly. So both of these little calves served their purpose on our dairy. You know, they were the building blocks for our dairy. They were the future of the dairy. They're both little calves. And, you know, when we are raising these animals, we raise them the best way we know possible. We feed them the best way we know possible, care for them. But if you compare these two calves, there's a lot of differences between them. The calves are housed in both calf hutches and in pens at my dad's homestead, at my uncle's farm. I'd say about half of them are in pens in the old barn, and half of them are out in calf hutches outside. So my uncle sold the cows in 2015, and what we did was we remodeled the whole stanchion barn. So we took out all the concrete, we put in a tiling system, and then we put gravel and sand down. So that allows the calves, everything to drain away from the calves, and then that drains into our manure storage system. So it just keeps the calves drier, keeps them healthier. We bed 3 times a week with sand. We use a little sawdust in the summer, or with straw, but we use a little sawdust in the summer, but mostly straw 3 times a week. These are just some pictures of our calf barn. So as you see, this is just the old tie stall or old stanchion barn. Our herd veterinarian, Dr. Ron Heinz, went through the Dairyland Initiative, went and learned how to put in positive pressure tubes in barns. So we have 2 positive pressure tubes, one on each side of the barn, right behind the calves. You can kind of see it in this picture. So, and then we have 2 fans in the center aisle here. So that really increased our ventilation. It's an old stanchion barn, so it just has a little lower ceiling. And then there's a wing that also has a tube in it. So these tubes have really helped with the ventilation and just overall calf health. So between keeping them dry with the tiling and the ventilation, we've been able to really improve our calf system. Some of the other things that we did was we work with Keith LeCount and Amanda Smith from CP Feeds, and we really revamped how we feed our calves. So we started feeding them more milk, and we started on a Land O'Lake pasteurized milk balancer. So this balancer just adds a little extra to the calves. We started this balancer in June of 18, and now that these heifers are coming through the breeding pen, you can just tell a difference. They're just bigger calves, they're healthier. Our calves do move around onto different farms, and they do get moved around a lot. So we just wanted them to start out as healthy as possible so that throughout any stresses that they endure throughout their first year of life, they're better able to weather through them. And then we also started weighing calves. So this is the calf scale that we have. Every calf is weighed when they come the day they're born. They come over to the farm, and then they're weaned when they get weighed. And then we kind of just watch trends throughout the year and watch for increases or decreases that way. And then we also started feeding them more. So we feed our calves twice a day. So when they're less than a week old, they get 5 pints of pasteurized milk twice a day. By 1 week, they're up to 6 pints. And then at 3 weeks, they're at 8 pints twice a day. And then at 6 weeks, they go back down to 6 pints twice a day of just whole milk. And then they're weaned at about 8 weeks. So I'd like to thank you for having us. I'd like to also thank Select Sires and CowManager for sponsoring us. And a thank you to Dan Hagenow of Video Creations for the great job on his video.
So I know we have the opportunity now for about 15 minutes of question and A or Q&A. We've got, of course, Tiffany with her mic up there. We also have another mic if any of the other family members have any answers to the questions, or some of the specialists that we have that work with the Paulus family as well. So I'll walk around if anybody does have any question and answer with a microphone for the crowd.
You did say anything about help, how many help and how you find help. It's all the problem on a farm, and how do you handle them? and I see you top dress hay on your TMR. Reason behind that?
So I can answer the hate question. So the way I guess like the flow is in the morning, the pen that is our post fresh gets back to the pen a little bit before we are able to get up there to start working them. So the old parlor is getting milked, so we lock them up, we work down there. Those are our fresh cows. And then we go up to the new barn where kind of our second post fresh is. So a lot of those cows are laying down. So what we'll do is we'll lock the headlocks and then we'll top dress hay, and we just do that in our post fresh. It just gets the cows up. It's another way to look, just.
On the hay question, we're 7 miles off of Lake Michigan. I've owned a big baler, square baler, forever it seems. I think it can make dry hay. I finally now think I'm going to give up making dry hay. We just got done buying some Western hay. Yes, it's expensive, but it shakes apart. It smells like hay. And if I don't like the hay, I don't buy it. When I make the hay, I have to feed it. Another reason why we top dress it, we didn't have a mixer up to about a year ago that I really felt could mix hay decent. And then we always top dress it, but it's a thing of taking some hay and throwing it down, and if that cow is hungry, good appetite, she comes up. You can kind of catch that cow that's cows laying in a free stall thin out a little bit, and you got a better chance to see maybe one that's not so good. It's really exciting with this CowManager, what we've seen in the heifers, and now there's some cows with it on, and what we're starting to see with what's happening in the cows and what we're catching and missing. It's only going to get better, and it's exciting. As far as the labor, I'm going to have our HR person talk.
I don't have an answer. As far as hired help, we have a little over 25 employees. Mostly all are Hispanics. One of our main ones is American. He works with Mike a lot with the field work, like Andy does here. And we've just learned over the years just on what their culture's like, the Hispanics. We have a lot of good ones. We are very blessed. We get new ones by word of mouth. We have already tried putting ads in the paper. That is of no use. And I guess our hardest thing is, which ones do we move up when others move on? And to try to pull out who are the Indians and who are the chiefs. And some don't like being a chief and some don't like being an Indian, if you kind of catch that. And we have some that just want to do just milking. And when we try to move them, they're not happy. Okay, go back where you were. Okay. And we respect them all. We treat them well. I think we are right up there with wages. We are fortunate that we have some houses. I wish we had 10 more because they do really like being close to the farm, us providing them housing. And that's actually one of the key things that I wish we had a little bit more if we had to change things. So any other question? What else did you have on that one? Okay, any other questions with HR? The employee stuff? All right.
What's some of the herd facts, production, cull rate on the cows and maybe calves and young stock?
So right now, we're at about 84 pounds per cow, and our cull rate is about 36. Our heifers, as far as cull rate, we have like a 12% non-completion rate right now. We do sell some heifers. We have friend of the family who raises up steers, and some of our heifers who maybe had a bout of pneumonia or two as calves that just aren't doing the best, we'll sell them to him. Just heifers that we know aren't maybe destined to become a dairy cow, but he has open to the south barns, really great ventilation, and they finish out really good as beef for him. So we work with Pete with that, so we're able to sell some of our heifers because we do have more heifers than we need, so we're able to cull some out that way.
What she's referring to is something that started after we put the CowManager in. She gets them in that facility around 13 months, tags them, and we started seeing some heifers on bad days, rainy days, that they would tank in their rumination a little bit, or their activity was down. And we started looking at this, and with the records we're keeping, we started correlating that with events at birth, or I should say as young calves on milk. And our pneumonia seems to be the biggest issue, that if they've been treated for pneumonia, say twice, they're going to show up as right before breeding, and they're going to have bouts that they'll go up and down. And what we've chosen to do is we just take them heifers out the system and just beef them out, or sell them to guys just to beef out. We don't want to go any farther with that heifer. We understand her lungs are damaged. She'll never be a productive cow. So why spend the money, get her bred, go through all this, and then she tanks on us in the first month or two of becoming a cow. You talk about our cull rate. That's Tiffany and Andy have one office with the DairyCom computer in, and I go in there occasionally, and I'll sit, and the first report I pull up is the cull rate and the culling graph. And if you want to know what's going on a farm, just go to the culling graph. And you look at the number of cows that are leaving the herd under 60 days. If that number is small, you know the cows are freshening well, they're getting off to a good start. If you've got way too many in there, yeah, go back and start looking at. We'll get to a place where our retained placentas go up or something, and we go back and maybe there was a feed change or something. That culling graph is a very important graph because you've got all this money stuck in that heifer or that cow, and the loser in the first 60 days of milk is really, that's not where you want to be, because that's where your economic gain is going to be. So, and that's just one of the things that we seen with the CowManager. It just happened to show up, and that's why I say going on from now with all the cows someday having tags in them, that we'll be able to see so much more.
So I'm a non-dairy person. I enjoyed the video and your presentation. And my question is, when you are milking these cows, are they giving milk all year round, or do they go dry, before they give birth to the cows?
We do. So we have about a 60-day dry period. So starting with freshening. So they will be in production for about 10 months. Our voluntary waiting period, we do not breed them until they're about 75 days after they have their calf. We'll breed them at 75 days of milk. And then when they are about 7 months pregnant, we will give them a 2-month or a 60-day dry period. So the dry cows are located right on the home farm there. So they go into a freestall barn for about the first, just over a month, and then the cows go onto a bedded pack. And on that bedded pack, we move them in there 3 weeks before they have their calf. They are on their bedded pack for about 3 weeks. They get a different ration at that time to get them ready for their lactation. So our calving interval cows freshen about once a year. It's just over once a year a cow will have her calf.
And you also mentioned about pneumonia. What percentage of the cows get the pneumonia or get infected?
Calves were probably, we see it more in our calves than in our cows. Calves, probably less than 10% get pneumonia, and then even less, I'd say, below single digits, I'd say maybe 2% of the cows. We just really don't see it as much in the cows. The tube ventilation that we've put in the barn really helped with the pneumonia. We've also moved them through all this. We added on another farm that our calves go to. So we decreased our crowding. So we really saw with decreasing the number of calves per pen that our pneumonia cases have decreased with that also.
Thank you.
Just one question. What's the average number of calvings your milking cows have?
We have about 6 to 8 cows fresh in a day. But the cows, like in their lifetime, they probably have about 3 to 4 calves. They have their first calf when they're about 2 years old, and we have outliers. We have some cows who are 10, 11 years old, but I'd say our average cow is 4 to 5 years old, so maybe 3 calves.
The picture that's up here now, our old dairy barn on the home farm was an 80-cow tie stall barn, and when those cows, my brother sold his cows to us in 15, here's a building again that I'm not going to let stand empty. I'm going to somehow find a way to use it. So what we did is where
This is it.
Okay, right behind the steel columns that hold the beam up, we basically sawed the floor out, and we sawed it out to about 4 feet from the outside walls. And then we dug that down, we laid a perforated tile in that, put a little stone right over the tile, and then covered it with sand. And we're seeing more of the moisture from the stalls themselves seep down into that tile, and that runs out by itself in our manure system. So we're not seeing near the urine amount as you would do like in a calf hutch, because that's getting away from the calf. And the other thing, we started this, the front panel where the calves put its head through is actually manufactured in Wisconsin by Fritsch Manufacturing, And then the rest of the stall, I built myself and designed. And between the calves, we have a removable panel. And that's something when Tiff has just started with recently, that at our weaning, she will pull them panels between the huts out and start letting the calves run together. And then at that time, there's a vaccination protocol. And then if we have room, and we don't need the stalls yet, the calves will stay in that barn for another week, just to kind of transition off, make sure they're eating enough grain and stuff like that. And then from there, they go into super huts.
Can you explain a little bit, do you do any pre-sync, or are you just relying on CowManager? And if you are relying on CowManager, what are you doing with cows that aren't cycling?
Yes, another thing with they're basically coming out in these talks you'll hear at World Expo. It seems like every couple months they come up with a new sync program. We're going to change this and this. I believe to answer your question directly, we are doing a pre-sync to an off-sync to get the cows started. And then after that, we are letting the CowManager take over from there. We talked about the locking up of cattle and husbandry and all the shots and everything in it in that particular range. And when you have the public and once they hear hormones and cows, I think the hormones it's gonna be a tougher sell to get rid of, like the BGH starting to go up by the wayside. But the less shots we can give, the better off we are. So what we have done, we went to a pre-sync to an off-sync early on, and with the CowManager, that 0 to 60 days really focusing on that. And that I do believe we've made pretty dramatic gains in our first service conception with that, because we're getting them bred on that first one. So we put a lot of emphasis on that first breeding, and that way we don't have to worry on so many hormones down the road.
Yeah, this question's for Mike. Tell us the benefits of farming with family, especially a son and a daughter.
It's very rewarding some days. When we started this, one of our first shots there, you've seen the barns way to the back. Back then, we were milking like 300 and 325 cows through a double six. The cow that was in the wrong spot of the barn, she walked a quarter mile to the parlor, stood in the holding area 3 hours, and then had to walk back. So around 2009, my son Andy had worked off the farm for a year, and he really came to us and said, hey, I want to farm with you. This is what I want to do. So then we started searching what we're going to build and stuff like that. And we built the first barn in the parlor in 2011. Things were good. We're going to put the second barn up, which was all planned right from the start. My daughter Tiffany came back to the farm as a vet. And I can remember one morning that me and her kind of got into it. And
you lose a filter.
Andy just said to me, you two got to learn how to talk to each other. But it's so rewarding and gratifying to see your kids interested in what you are interested, building this farm. It's no longer about me and Lori. It's about how we can teach our kids what we've learned, that they can be better managers, and just give them the upper hand. And I can see it in the young, their kids too. They enjoy coming out. Will they farm? We don't know, but it's very heartwarming.
So we did have a question back here. How is it the other way around? How is it the kids working for the father? Same pause.
So
Um,
filters get removed sometimes.
Yeah, I guess to go on that point, when we were back talking on there, this is our freestyle barn, and obviously our old parlor is right behind these silos. We were milking just shy of 400 cows out of these two sides here, this barn, and there's a walkway that goes here, and that's a quarter mile. We walked it off a quarter mile, so if that cow's like right here, up around the barn, up and through here, then wait up here to get milked and then walk back. Well, between rain, snowstorms, and everything else in between, and then not to mention the feed lanes up in this barn were used as holding areas. So all of our 2-year-olds in this barn were held back from feed for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. So then we wonder why our production was down, and so that's what kind of made. Then when we toured farms that were more or new, better design, and we see them kind of, yeah, we're doing 85 no problem, and we're struggling to get 70, and so now we just turn this all into mostly heifer and dry cow. Our dry cows are in this barn and then a bedded pack here, so we can just walk them down here with that. So that, when we built up here, obviously there's frustration when you, as we all, put in a long day of work and you still can't get the results. But also with the expansion, is we kind of divvy jobs up a little bit more now. We're not on top of each other all the time. Do we all have our opinions of what we think we would do? Yeah. But we kind of, Dad's more of the crop machinery aspect of it. I was feeding in like the old part and thought that nobody else could ever feed. Yeah, it changed. We trained a Hispanic employee to do that, and does a very, very good job. So then I was a herdsman, and I thought nobody could be herdsman anymore. And Tiff came back, so she's a herdsman now. So I actually like it. I'm kind of a little bit of everything up there. Deal with mostly the breeding in the morning, and then go out to anything else. Obviously, there's enough work on a farm throughout to be done. So kind of a floater most days, but I like it on that part. So, but yeah, there's days and there's days. But the good ones are all weighing the bad. This time, obviously everyone's in the same boat financially and everything. It's not great. Weather sucks outside. Good for Expo because everyone's here trying to get corn and everything. But yeah, just kind of keep trucking along.
One of the things for me with coming back to the family farm, so I was in practice for 5.5 years as a large animal vet. My husband also owns a dairy farm. They have 900 cows, and they own a custom manure hauling business. So between my on-call and Kurt's work schedule, I came back to the family farm when my daughter was about a year old. I was on call every other weekend, and we were either shipping Kendall off to my parents or Kurt's parents for the weekend, every weekend that I was on call during their busy season. So being back home has really been good for our family. We now have 3 little kids, and just my mom is our lifesaver. She helps with picking them up at school. Kids get sick. I just have so much more flexibility now for our family, and we try to. Andy has little kids. I have little kids. A lot of our employees have little kids, so we try to put that on to everybody, that we try to be as family oriented as possible, that things come up, your kids get sick, spouses, something happens with them at work, that we try to be as open and as flexible with that as possible. So that's one of the benefits I see.
I know one of your questions back there is how Mike gets along with his kids and how his kids get along with Mike. I'm here. Let's talk about transition. And Mike and I have had learned to try to work together. As you can see, milking only went with him for a short time. Then he went off and did his own work, and then I milked. And when I think about it, we got married in '78, and I don't know, it wasn't too many years, and I milked by myself, and we first got automatic takeoffs in '93. So I milked by myself going back and forth from the one side to the other side, of course, of the 6-6. And Andy started football in the 8th grade. And Mike wasn't around because he was always out in the field or doing whatever. We didn't have cell phones. So I would have my vehicle parked down by the barn. I'd wait till all 12 are off, jump in my vehicle, run up to school, be waiting in that parking lot, and my son was the only one that was running to the vehicle when practice was done because he knew that Mom had to get home to milk, and then I would drop off the vehicle by the barn, he'd jump in the driver's seat, put the car away, and I would go back to milking. And without those automatic takeoffs, I mean, we wondered why their eyeballs were almost milked out. And when we had teeth problems and everything else, well, we learned different things. And it's fortunate now that I don't have to milk anymore. I broke my foot, so done. Just like Andy, everybody filled my spot. Took a little bit. It took a little bit. And but it was good. God was looking out for me. And I'm really glad my kids have a lot of kids. A little transition for Mike when I had kids around all the time, grandkids, and couldn't get a lot of other things done. So I'm doing book work at midnight, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, and we're still together after 40 years, so that says quite a bit. So thank you.